G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it.
We'll have all the show notes and any resources mentioned in the cast on our website. Originally from the UK, Michelle travelled a bit then settled in Cairo. Aged 24 in 2005, sick of selling Egyptian rugs on eBay, she pivoted to become a virtual assistant. 5 years later, even earning $250,000 US a year as a virtual assistant, she pivoted again to online courses and now teaches people to create their own online businesses and build and leverage remote teams for 1nSourcing, social media, website build, maintenance, customer service and content creation. By the end of 2010, 10% of revenue came from training courses. Now that is 60%, with 30% from services her team provides others and 10% from affiliate revenue. Peaked at 25 FTE, now around 10. Growth has been all funded from profits. Felt she had succeeded when people were asking her for help and advice. The hardest thing about growing a small business is not feeling at the toughest times like wanting to give up. What Michelle would tell herself on day one of starting out is, don't give up. In episode 3, I speak with Matthew, who after 12 years of buying into a pharmacy with $800,000 annual revenue, sold out with his business partners as the business hit $21 million a year in sales.
Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Michelle Dale from Virtual Miss Friday. Thanks for your time, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And the first question's easy. Peter, our podcast editor, reached out and asked you to come on the cast, so thank you very much.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, where you're located, what it does and how it makes money.
Okay, so in my business, I basically help people to take their businesses online. I teach people how to create online businesses. And it started off originally as providing services to people. And then as my business grew, it went into training and education. And then it's primarily training and education now. But I still do service clients on the side.
Yep. Great. And so what's the model? How do you charge?
Packages.
Yep.
So for the products, obviously they're fixed price and people can pay over a course of a series of months, or they can just pay in full up front. I do mentorship and coaching as well. Mm-hmm. And with my services, it's a fixed monthly fee. So it's a package price. And I sell the services not by task, but by roles. It's a role-based system.
Great. Okay. Maybe can you give some examples of that and also the courses?
Yeah, sure. So the service side of the business, I sell roles as in you get a collection. It's like a one-stop shop. I call it 1nSourcing. So you get a collection of roles that service and online operations of a digital business. So it could be personal assistant, customer support rep, website developer, social media assistant, content marketer, content creator, all those essential roles to running a digital operations business. So that's what I sell on the service side of the business. And in terms of the training, I teach people from how to get started with the absolute very basics of becoming a freelancer through to becoming a team member, growing a team yourself, going into consulting, going into then selling digital products and services as part of the business. So it's a full spectrum of basically how my business has grown over the years.
Great. And what's the rough breakdown or percentage of across those revenue streams? Is it more coming from the services or courses?
In the beginning, it was all coming from services. And then when I transitioned at the end of 2010, beginning of 2011, I started maybe doing about 10% in training.
Yep.
And I would say probably now we're about 50% in training, so it's 60% in training, about 30 in services, and the rest I make from affiliates and JVs and things like that.
Yep. Great. And how did you start out?
I started out because I left the UK originally. I just kind of booked a one-way ticket. I decided I wanted to go traveling. I ended up in Egypt. And then as soon as I ended up here, I realized I didn't want to go back to the UK. I never planned on going back immediately because I sold my house and I sold on my, everything, and basically took a chance and just decided to move. But I realized then I wanted something that would allow me, or an occupation that would allow me to travel, that would allow me to work from anywhere, that I could take with me, that it would be flexible enough for me to do that. So then I started the virtual assistant business. After doing a lot of research and kind of dabbling around in things, I sold Egyptian rugs on eBay for a while. And I was just kind of trying to find my thing. And then I came across the concept of being a virtual assistant, which is back then, like this was 2005, it wasn't very well known and people weren't really into the whole working remotely thing. So it was kind of hard to break into, but I believed in it and I trusted it. And I started my business from that.
Great. And how old were you when you started out?
24.
24. And do you have any key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business?
Yeah, so obviously in the beginning, I was at zero. I didn't know anything about business. I mean, I'd come from working in so many different jobs. I worked in hospitals and banks and offices and all kinds of things. I waitressed, I cleaned, I did everything. So for me, it was like starting from nothing. And I taught myself how to build a website and Dreamweaver. So from that moment, I think probably the first time I realized that I had a business that was actually doing something really good was probably in about 2008 when I hit the 6-figure mark. And then I started growing more from there. It was growing more rapidly from there. And I started to hire team members. And that's, I think, when it really took off because I was able to scale up a lot quicker.
Yep. And you were saying before we started recording, so after about 4 years, you got up to about 40 team members, maybe 13 or 14 full-time equivalents?
Yeah, exactly. So I had, by 4 years, I had about 25 in total. Around 10 to 13 of those were full-time. The rest were working part-time and a few ad hoc. Yep.
And that was your peak in team member numbers?
That was my peak. It's fluctuated over the years because obviously the direction in my business has changed somewhat as well. When I was just doing purely services and working for clients, my team capacity needed to be a lot higher because we were doing billable time and exchanging, time for hours and things like that. But now I'm focusing more on digital products. And it was a strategic decision. You get to a point in your business, like I'm 15 years in now. And I wanted to start doing more education. It gives me more flexibility in my business and things like that. So now I start teaching other people how to build teams, which allowed me also to reduce my team members.
Yeah, great. And so what number are you down to now, team-wise?
It can fluctuate between 10 to 15 now.
Yeah, great. And when was the moment you felt like you'd succeeded?
The moment I felt like I don't know really. I think it was around the time when people started asking me and coming to me for help and advice. I mean, for sure, I had the financials. When I started doing the training, I remember I was earning about $20,000 a month, which, was pretty good for a virtual assistant back then. It was in 2010. So that was 10 years ago.
And sorry, you said $20,000 a month. Is that US dollars you're talking?
Yeah, US dollars.
Yeah.
It was pretty good exchange rate back then as well. So it translated well for me. Yeah. And for a virtual assistant, that people used to think that was pretty good. It was pretty good. But I had a big strong why to build the business as well, because I just found out I was pregnant and, I was the only person generating an income. So for me, it was just, it had to happen and it happened really rapidly. So I started earning $20,000 a month. People started understanding that I was doing it all around the world. When I started training, I was living in Spain at the time. I'd been in France for a couple of years before that, and then I moved to Italy. So everyone was like, wow, this woman's making this money and she's traveling and she's got kids. And I want some of that. I want to learn how to do that. And I think that was definitely the moment where I thought I've got something special to offer people to work through that.
Great. And what does success look like to you?
Happiness. To me, success is if I'm happy, if I feel fulfilled in life, if I'm doing the things that I want to do. To me, that's success. For sure, it's nice to have 6-figure income, multi 6 figures. It's good to have that. But if you're not happy, if you're not fulfilled in what you do, I don't consider that successful. Yep.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast growing business?
personal one-on-one interaction, which is quite difficult to do these days, especially on the internet. But that's how I've grown my business, and technology has really moved on a long way. Do Zoom calls, there's a video emails and things like that. You can use service like Bonjour to send video emails. So keep it as personal as possible, to really establish trust really, really early on.
Yeah, I've heard of Bonjour. I haven't used it yet, but it's a great idea, great service. So customized video messages, short messages to your customers. Yeah, really.
Yeah, and I send messages to every subscriber that comes onto my list. And it's just something that it immediately starts conversation. I look specifically for interaction from my audience. I don't like talking at people constantly. I want them to feed back to me. So video emails are great for that.
Yep. And how have you funded your business over the years?
From the business.
Yep.
It started off at nothing, and it grew from there, from nothing. But every amount of money or every piece of money I made, I put back into the business to try and help improve it. Great.
So no investors or bank finance. That's just all from profits. That's well done. Yeah. That's terrific. And if you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I would.
Yep.
I definitely would.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
I think the most stressful point was probably around the recession time, because a lot of things were very unknown. And I thought to myself then, maybe I'm going to have to pivot a little bit and see if I can do something else, maybe go and get a job. But actually that turned out to be one of my biggest growth years. Yeah. Because everyone then was losing their jobs and looking to start working online. So I would say for me, I think it's the fear that gets to us more than anything, and if you can try to always see the positive in everything, even if things are challenging, then you'll be able to get through it.
Yeah. And have you found a bump with COVID as well?
Yeah. I lost 2 of my biggest clients with COVID because they were in the travel industry.
Yeah.
And their business was centered around travel events, which basically all got cancelled and refunded. So they lost about $140,000 in the space of 2 weeks through just refunding. Mm-hmm. So obviously they had to let me go, and they had no business anymore. So yeah, it's affected me in terms of the businesses that have been affected by COVID that I was working with. But in terms of the product side of the business, which I'm so thankful is a majority of my income now, that's still going really well.
Yeah, great. So you did see an increase pretty much because of COVID, similar to the GFC. Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And what area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
The area of business I think I've worked on the most is probably myself and my mindset. I think more than anything, knowledge is very easy to learn, to pick up. There are many people doing training programs now which weren't available when I started my business. Even social media wasn't around when I started my business. So it's been a journey in that sense. But I think the biggest journey is working on my mindset and my confidence and feeling like I can do this.
Yep. And what have you enjoyed least about managing the fast growth?
I think it was probably the amount of hours that it took, especially when you're learning and there's no one there to guide you and hold your hand. You're kind of feeling your way around. You have to make a lot of mistakes, which can be stressful, but the mistakes help you to learn and help you to grow. So yeah, I was a bit of a perfectionist before I started my business in terms of my work, and it was easy to do then. But when you're just constantly going through trial and error, it can be stressful. You can be working long hours trying to figure it out. So you have to really be dedicated to what you're doing in order to make it through.
Yep. And what do you love most about growing a small business?
I don't say I love growing a small business, but I loved growing my small business because for me, that was a symbol of my freedom. The freedom that I wanted in my life. And I knew that growing the business was going to contribute towards that and make that happen for me. So I can't necessarily say that I'm a typical entrepreneur and I desperately wanted to start my own business, but I knew what I wanted out of my life. And I enjoyed growing my small business because I knew what it was going to give me.
Yep. Good. And what's been the biggest mindset shift for you in your journey so far? You may have already answered that, but
I think the biggest mindset shift for me was when I realized that I can't control everything, and sometimes you just have to leave it open and see what's going to happen. I was a big control freak, and I would think I needed to know everything, and you actually don't. You just got to take it a step at a time. You don't have to have a 5-year business plan. You don't have to know exactly what's going to happen the next day. You just got to make the most of it and work through each day as it comes and deal with the challenges and problems that arise and the triumphs from it as well. So I think that was the biggest thing for me.
Yep. And what's the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
A really good self-development ritual, whether that be journaling, meditating, visualizing, any of those things that help you stay focused on your goal, writing it out on a daily basis, just a really good self-development ritual where you can focus on your goals every single day and know exactly what you're working for.
Yep.
Find it hard to define a clear strategy, then communicate it and execute it alongside the rest of your team? Or you currently don't work a simple quarterly strategic plan to boost your team's performance? Our Business Growth Formula online course is perfect for small business owners with 5 to 30 team members wanting to grow. We share the mindsets, habits and tools to be a legendary leader in your business. growasmallbusiness.com.
And can you talk to how you've added people to the team over the years, some wins, mistakes and advice for those listening?
Yeah, well, in the beginning when I was starting out, I knew I had to add people to the team, but I was a little bit skeptical about it. I remember reading a book, The 4-Hour Work Week, and Tim Ferriss was hiring people from, these third world countries. So I thought to myself, I'll start there. And that was a huge learning curve in terms of training the people and everything, and getting people to work on time, getting people to do what they're supposed to do. So I kind of evolved up from there, and it became a mix of different types of people from different countries. And in the end, a lot of them came from word of mouth. And a lot of them actually came from mums I knew from schools and things like that who hadn't heard of the concept of being a virtual assistant, were really interested in it. And that seemed to be the best place for me to hire.
Yep. And what countries did you get people from?
From America, from different countries in Europe, India, Philippines, Australia.
Yep.
There's been a whole mix from all over the world.
And what are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
I think just keeping a very positive frame of mind, positive mindset, and really involving people and learning to ask for help.
Yeah.
We can be very proud, I think, sometimes, especially when we build a business, like we can do it all on our own. But I think being able to ask for help, and also finding someone that you can model from, finding someone that's been there and done it, and you can read up on their content, you can go and check out their blog, look at their programs and courses, see what they're doing, and try and just go alongside and learn from them.
Yep. And tell our audience how you've handled balance.
Balance has been really tough, because I do have 3 kids now, and I have been doing a lot of traveling, in between. So I would definitely say that you have to really be conscious about taking time for yourself and restricting your work time, because if you don't, you can literally run into working from all hours of the day. So it's about really understanding that you need that balance, and you're the only person that's going to give that to yourself. So, the world isn't going to end if you take some time off.
Yeah. It's a lesson I learned late in my business career. Yeah. How much professional development have you invested in yourself over the years?
I took one program when I started to launch the product side of my business, because I didn't know what I was doing then. And at that time, when I did it, sort of 2010, 2011, online courses had started to come out, and people were starting to share and teach about what to do. So I knew that I needed help. And then I enrolled in Yaris Derek's blog mastermind and membership mastermind course. I literally followed everything to the letter. And I went from 0 to 20 grand in 3 months.
That's amazing. Yeah, Yaris, he's from Brisbane in Australia. I remember listening to his podcast years ago. He sounds like a lovely guy.
Yeah, he is adorable. And it's really interesting because he started his blog, Entrepreneur's Journey, when I started my business as well. So I was there from he interviewed me because I had quite a bit of success from his program. And he was basically saying, like, you're the first person that ever started reading my blog. And I probably was.
I think I stumbled upon him in around 2010. So he was already well on the way then. Yeah.
Yeah.
And have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
No, just Yarrow, really. I've kind of been my own mentor and own coach, but I do really love people in the self-development field, and the people who deal a lot with mindset and being an entrepreneur, like John Assaraf. I read a lot of him, Jack Canfield, those kind of types.
Yep. I assume you don't have board of directors or advisors at the moment?
No, this is just me.
All right, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
I think the hardest thing in growing a small business is not feeling at the toughest times that you want to give up. To me, there is no failure unless I just throw in the towel one day and say, that's it, I'm done, I've given up. And I think so many people do that too easily because I feel like it's failed already, but it only fails when you give up.
Yeah, no, failure is success if we learn from it. Malcolm Forbes, that was the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
There's so many. I would say the most impactful early on in the business was Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk.
Gary V. Yeah, he's unique, isn't he? He's full of passion.
He's totally unique. And, I love that guy's energy. And I love how very frank and honest he is. And I like people like that. I just resonate with people like that.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I'm subscribed to something called Gaia, which is kind of like a form of self-development Netflix. And that's kind of my go-to thing, especially when I'm feeling like on days where I'm feeling like, do I really want to do this anymore? Because we all get them. Yes. Even if we're successful and we love what we do, there are still days when we're feeling questioning it. So I jump onto Gaia and I watch something inspirational and motivational to get me back on track again.
I hadn't heard of that. I'm going to check that out. And one tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
A tool that I would recommend to help grow a small business. You mean like a technical tool or
anything? Just the one thing that if someone came to you, what's the one tool you'd recommend they use?
A journal.
Journal, good. And final question, what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
Don't give up. Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time today, Michelle. I think the audience will get a lot of value out of your journey and what you've shared with us today, so I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for your time.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.